let's start, Samila.
Yeah, let's start.
Bhuvaneshwari,
Shall
you
I?
start recording.
Yeah, I'll do.
Donation? Yeah.
Yeah.
Greetings to you all, members of the All India Women's Conference, our well-wishers. A very warm welcome to each one of you. And of course, our chief guest today is Professor Malashri from Delhi, former Dean of Delhi University, who's joining us today to give us a talk on celebrating Lakshmi stories. It's indeed a pleasure to have her here with us, and an honor, I should say, to have Malashri with us here today. This is the third talk that we are hosting under the series Retelling of Stories. This is part of our literary and cultural forum, which we have been hosting for the last 4 years. We took change in the direction the last 2 months back when we thought that let us move towards more about cultures and stories of women and how cultures have been shaped and how women's stories need to be revived and I would say reharvested once again to understand the poignancy and the beauty of those tales that were told but were forgotten. And I think we could not have chosen a better person than Professor Malashri to be with us here today. She is not only an academician, she is a writer, she is an editor, she is an anthropologist, and has done a lot of work on women, literature, and culture. I came to know her during our Canadian Studies conferences, and I deeply admired the way in which she was able to yoke together her teaching capabilities and her administrative prowess. And as the Dean of Colleges, Dean of Academic Activities and Projects, and Chair of the Research Council of Delhi University, the Director of the Women's Studies and Development Center, and a host of other positions that she has occupied, not only in her university, but in the Ministry of Culture as well. And find that if we look at the way in which she has grown from just a literature teacher and a literature educator to someone who has in fact embraced women's issues, child issues, children's issues, the way in which she moved from critical readings and reviews to her own writings. Today, she is a very well-known poet, a writer, and has published in Indian literature, Confluence, The Beacon, and online portals and anthologies in USA and in India. But I think the most significant work that she has done is the one for which she won the award, Kalinga Fiction Book of the Year Award in 2022-21. This was a play that she had together with Namita Gokhale co-authored, and it is called The Betrayed by Hope, a play of the life of Michael Madhusudan's death. And there was the famous actors Victor Banerjee and Sushmita Sen playing the parts of the lead roles. So it's indeed a great honor to have her here with us. Apart from her own writing, she has also been on the panel of juries of so many of them, of the Commonwealth Writers' Prize, London, the DSE South Asian Literary Prize, London and India, the Hindu Literary Prize, the Crossword Book Award, the Sushila Devi Book Award for Women, among others. And to top it all, she has been a senior consultant to the Ministry of Culture during the 150th year celebration of Rabindranath Tagore. I'm sure most of you would remember the series that we had on Rabindranath Tagore. And it was enlightening to see that she was a senior consultant during this time at the celebration of Tagore in Delhi. She also serves on the advisory committee of several universities, prestigious journals, the Journal of Commonwealth, and the most, I think, prominent Facebook posts that Malashri puts up are those of the Jaipur Festival. And it's very interesting to see that she follows these festivals every year without a break. And it's a pleasure to see her face there, and the book reviews, her talks that she does during these festivals at Jaipur and also at the Kolkata Literary Festival and the Sahitya Academy programs. She is a member of the advisory committee of the Janpith Advisory Committee for English. She's a member of the English Advisory Board of Sahitya Academy. So if I'm to read her bio, it would just go on and on. But I think I've given you an idea of the popularity of Malashri Lal, the depth of her reading, the interest that she has taken in the women's causes and women's issues, and the way she has been able to yoke together not just the academic and pedagogy part of it, but also at the grassroots level. And at the grassroots level, she has been, in fact, organizing poetry reading sessions. She has a group of poets who get together under the banyan tree, as it were. It is called the Pilkan Tree, and a poetry group that meets in Delhi almost periodically. So if this is Malashri Lal for you, our honored guest of the day, who, as I said, has published many anthologies. And today she's going to speak about her anthology of The Treasures of Lakshmi. It's when she told me that she would like to talk about Lakshmi and not about Sita. I said, Sita was the first book that I read. And then she said, no, Lakshmi is the newer book that has come out. So let me talk on Lakshmi. And that made me go to the book. And I was really fascinated by what she has got together there, the anthology that she has put together there with her friend Namita Gokhale. So a very, very warm welcome to you, Professor Malashri Lal, to the AIWC on behalf of the Trivandrum chapter and on behalf of the All India Women's Conference. So very, very warm welcome. Now today we are talking about mythology, the third session in our talk. Mythology has always fascinated everyone, I'm sure, whether it be the mythology of one's own culture or the mythology of cultures other than one's own. We started this series with some of the Greek mythological figures, and we also talked about the women, the presence of women, and the way in which women have, in a way, been able to shape the destiny of the earth and of the people. So the powerful women that we have seen in mythology. Similarly, here, when we talk about Lakshmi, I'm sure Malashri Lal is going to tell us, here is a beautiful goddess decked all in red and with beautiful lotus flowers in her, sitting on a lotus flower with a lotus flower in her hand. And the way that she blesses the home with bounty, with prosperity, with fortune, with compassion, with love, with humanity. Now, that is indeed something that one associates with not just a divine woman, but all women. The way in which the women becomes the bedrock of any human society or of any home. And together with it, as I was reading through the stories, I was fascinated by the story of what we would call the opposite of Lakshmi, Alakshmi, who represents evil, and the way in which in one of those stories, what we had was Lakshmi is always kept out of the house because she represents evil. And there are customs like throwing salt outside the door so that she does not enter. While inside the house, Lakshmi is venerated and Lakshmi is worshipped. So stories that give us a sense of human good and human evil coexist side by side. This is something that we have found in all mythology, where good and there is a constant perpetual war between good and evil, and the way in which women play a prominent role in establishing that. Even evolution, we always relate it to the earth mother. It is always a mother figure who is the earth. We remember when I told you about the Greek story of Persephone and Demeter. We had the story of how the different seasons came to the earth, and why there are dark seasons and why they are the lighter, beautiful seasons. In Lakshmi stories, also, that is something that I found. When Lakshmi goes under the earth and she is away from the earth, everything is dry. There are no flowers around. There is no harvesting around. There is no fruitfulness. But once she comes back, it all comes back again. So the bright colors with which the goddess is associated, yellow, red, pink, and you find in all those um, the idols that we have, Lakshmi is always adorned, bedecked with jewels and colorful dresses. That is something that I think lies dormant in each woman. Every woman thinks about the colors that she loves and the colors that make life what it is. Even when we talk about native culture, whether it be in Canada or in America or any other cultures, we find even in native cultures this existed. The brighter colors always stood for virtue and richness, whereas the darker colors, the black, always represented something that was dark and something that was always below the earth. It was never up above the earth, as it were, with love or compassion. So this is something that we find everywhere. And I would like to, with a short introduction that I'm telling you here, I would like to end it with a poem that Uma Parameshwaran wrote in Canada. She's an Indian writer who was writing in Canada. And she when she went to Canada, she found that she had to keep all the doors and windows closed because it was cold. And in the poem, she writes, if you don't open out the windows and the doors, how will Lakshmi enter your house? And how will Lakshmi be able to bless you? So with this note, I would like to invite Malashri Lal to talk to us about the virtues of Lakshmi, the colorful Lakshmi, as it were, the bejeweled Lakshmi, who has become and every woman would like to make a part of her life. Because as I see it, I feel that the divinity is something that resides within you if you consciously awaken that divinity in you, and you are able to do and you are able to feel some of those, what you would say, animated forms of active life on earth rather than live a passive life. So with these words of introduction, I would now like to request Professor Malashri Lal to talk to us about Lakshmi and Lakshmi's stories. Over to you, Malashri.
Thank you very much, Professor Jamila Begum, for that generous introduction. And also because we've known each other for a long time, there is the warmth of a personal note that I feel when she talks about our association in different forums over the last 40 years or so, I believe. One or two things I want to pick up from what Professor Jamila Begum mentioned, and that is the connection between academia and activism, which I think is very important for any kind of gender studies, because traditionally the two have been kept separate by the structures that exist in our society. And these structures were created by the colonial education and their legacy. But actually, if one looks into the heritage of storytelling, which is what your series is all about, in the Indian tradition, there were no categories that were separate. There was no separate storytelling, no separate poetry and music. It dance, bhav, drama, it all blended together in a text like Natya Shastra, for instance. And I think it's time for us to go back to that kind of integrated approach to culture, which you at the AIWC and what I have heard of the series that are being presented is attempting to do. So, in my own very small way, halfway through my career of 45 years at the University of Delhi, I felt when I became the director of women's studies in the university that it couldn't be studies in the colonial sense of the word. It had to be studies in the Indian legacy sense of the word. And that meant integrating with society, doing groundwork, field work, associating with civil society organizations and NGOs, interviewing people yourself, and coming out with your own understanding of what the woman's position is, has been, and might be within India. The second point I want to pick up from what Professor Begum mentioned is the very act of storytelling and what it does for us. It opens up the old stories in a new way. And we are very fortunate in India that we are existing within a living mythology. Unlike the Greeks and unlike the Romans and unlike the Celtics, and you may have heard of some of them in the series, we in India have not put our mythology behind locked doors in the historical archives. We are constantly using the mythology in our morning prayers, in our evening prayers, in our festivals, in our decorations, in the colors, as you mentioned, that we wear. There is a constant contact with the living mythology of India. And here I take what Professor Begum has said a step forward and suggest in my lecture that we therefore have to revisit the living mythology from our contemporary perspective. Otherwise, we will lose it. Our young people today must understand and realize the connect that they have with the past, and that the stories told, specially about the women, have to be retold by the women and also retold in a way that it connects with our lives, whatever age we might be, that it connects with our contemporary issues, contemporary reasons, contemporary aspirations, and ideals. And that is the only way in which the living quality of mythology is going to persist. So it is within that larger framework that I am placing my talk today on Lakshmi, which is the last of a series of 3 books which Penguin is marketing as the Goddess Trilogy. When Namita Gokhale and I wrote our first book, which was in 2009, which was called In Search of Sita, we hadn't conceptualized it as a trilogy. And our impelling force was exactly what Professor Begum had said, that here is an existing story, or many stories about Sita, but they're all told in a certain kind of a hierarchical, patriarchal context and told by men narrators. The Chandravati Ramayana has only recently been translated by Navonita Dev Sen. But most of the Ramayans that we have been told by very sensitive men writers, but nevertheless, there is a gender aspect that women interpreters might take on. That is what inspired us to do that first book. The book was fortunately very well received, and we were asked to find a second subject. And Namita and I decided to talk about Radha, because once again, she is the recipient of a lot of attention as the beautiful partner, consort of Lord Krishna. But she was also a person who was not given the individualism that a woman's identity may desire. And where was that individualism to be found but in rereading Jayadev, in also doing a lot of ground research, in talking to our contemporary women to find out what does Radha mean to you? And where does she touch you in your own life? And we got lots of wonderful answers. That second book led again to the third possibility. And this time we decided to take on a much bigger challenge because the book on Lakshmi was very, very difficult to write for many reasons. One, you're talking of a revered goddess, and you're also talking about a goddess who is interpreted throughout the country through every community in its own way. So, how do we get a pan Indian picture, or do we even want a pan Indian picture? She is also a person who appears in the so called mainstream traditions and the little traditions of the country. She's there in urban and rural society. And therefore, we just have to be looking very deeply and intricately into the various manifestations of Goddess Lakshmi. So, we started the book with that kind of a questioning framework. And my personal entry into the book was that Lakshmi cannot only be the goddess of wealth. There are the 108 names of Lakshmi that are recited at certain times of the year. And there is also the Sahasranama of Lakshmi, that's 1,000 names. So if a goddess has so many names, she can't only be the representative of material wealth. And yet, as Jamila was saying, when we think of Lakshmi, we get this image of a very beautiful woman dressed in a red sari, covered with gold ornaments, perhaps wearing golden colored sort of embellishments around her, the lotus in her hand, the elephants behind her. So we get a very opulent image of Lakshmi. Now, I would request now for our book cover to be shown to you and say a few words as to why we chose a different image of Lakshmi. So that's the book cover. As you can see, that this is a Lakshmi who looks you straight into the face, directly into your eyes, and said, "Look at me, and you will see your image in my eyes." That's the Lakshmi that we want. She is also not clad in that traditional red and gold and opulence. Yes, she is beautifully turned out, certainly there. But, and then she does have a halo around her head. So that represents the divine feminine. But we wanted the divine feminine to be different from the stereotypical idea of Lakshmi. So we can take that image off the screen, and I will continue to speak about this 108 uh, sides of Lakshmi. So she is associated with Parvati and Saraswati also, because in her many appearances, she takes different forms. She's the consort of Lord Vishnu through all his avatars. She is associated with Sita and Radha. So it isn't only the goddess who gives material wealth, she is also the goddess of abundance. And therefore, it is extremely important that we go back to the old sources and see at what point did Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance, become the goddess of wealth, and why this commercial connection that has been made with the idea of Lakshmi in our present times. Now, this is where we have a section in the book which is called Hymns to Lakshmi. And we go back to very, very ancient texts when she wasn't even called Lakshmi. Her original name was Shri. And at that time, the expectation was that she was the giver of knowledge. She was the giver of peace, of health. So when we look at those early chapters, which we had well-known Sanskritists interpret and translate for us, the organic manner in which Lakshmi surfaces comes to our knowledge, and we begin to respect her for the many other blessings that she brings into our lives. And that is why the subtitle of our book is The Treasures of Lakshmi, the goddess who gives. It doesn't say what she gives. So let us see what is it that she gives us. So I take you now to the origin of Lakshmi's appearance. And so the next slide is going to be on the Samudra Manthan. If we could have that, please. So here we are. Everybody knows the story of the gods and the demons fighting, and the nag being used as the rope, and then goddess Lakshmi emerges from the ocean. So I don't have to explain any of that. But what I want to point out is that when the abundance of Lakshmi is to be talked about, if you notice in the image or any other image of the Samudra Manthan, if you look at it very carefully, he's carrying what is called the Akshay Patra. And the Akshay Patra has grain and gold. So back to what Jamila was saying, that we have to look at the details of these stories. It's grain and gold. It's not only gold. So why are we today advertising Diwali as an occasion to worship Lakshmi with material gifts, with material abundance? Celebrate gold, buy gold jewelry. What about the grain part of it? The grain part of it is absolute and complete nourishment. It is what keeps the body. And that is perhaps the more enduring legacy that we would like to be talking about. Not only that, when Lakshmi emerges from the ocean, she also brings with her Kamdhenu, that is the sacred cow. Why is the cow worshipped? Because she is the source of many kinds of nourishment and nutrition. So that nutrition element is also suggested by what accompanies Lakshmi. She has yet another item with her when she emerges from the ocean, and that is the Kalpataru, the wish fulfilling tree. Now, this fulfilling tree doesn't have to be only the dream of being rich. The wish fulfillment may be for peace, for happiness, for the children, for the good of society. The particular idea of Kalpataru is that you can imagine your Kalpana. Your Kalpana can be of anything that brings you joy. It doesn't have to be only material health. And then finally, she has Chintamani with her. Chintamani is the gem that heals. And I would underline the word heals, because healing to me is a very important word in our society and much needed in today's context. We have to heal the wounds of emotions, of idealism, of romanticism, the kind of pain, hunger, scarcity, poverty that is we see around us, the addictions that people have become prone to. So when it is Lakshmi coming out of the ocean, the churning, Lakshmi carries all these attributes with her. So, what we're celebrating in this book and the image of Lakshmi and the stories that I want to bring to you are the journey of abundance that I want to suggest. Abundance in the broadest sense of the word and not in the narrow sense of material wealth. So, she suggests then for me a very holistic well being. And it is the holistic well being where I have selected the stories that I will further tell you. Now, coming to my next point, we can take that image off. The next point is that in Hinduism, a lot of our gods and goddesses are associated with animals, plants, leaves, flowers. This is environmental consciousness. And today we are worrying about climate change and environmental consciousness, but go back to the old stories and it's all there. No human being, no divine being exists without the blessings of a benign environment. If the environment turns non benign, there can be calamity and devastation. Also, the barrier between the human, the divine, the animal world, the shapeshifters, it's very fluid. And some of us, well, Jamila definitely, and I to some extent have worked with Canadian literature and other world literatures. This is so in a lot of the older mythologies that there are no barriers between one form of existence and another. But in most of those countries, it's forgotten. In our country, we still have them surrounded by the objects of nature. And the lotus is associated with Lakshmi, and the lotus is a symbol of purity, of fertility, and of beauty. So let us remember that it isn't only just a flower, it has many, many connotations. The other association with Lakshmi is of the elephants. They're supposed to be auspicious, of course, and there are still processions in Mysore and many other parts of the southern parts of India where the auspicious symbol of royalty is elephants, and caparisoned elephants suggest a certain kind of majesty, a certain kind of power, a certain kind of benign coexistence with human beings. So that is what I would like to emphasize when we talk about Lakshmi and we see the image of the elephants who are bathing her with water. It's this linkages in the artistry or the aesthetic presentations of Lakshmi, which have to be read carefully and with an understanding of environmental unity. And the third item that is associated with the image of Lakshmi is the owl, particularly in Bengal, where my origins are, and in Orissa, we call it Lokhir Pacha, that is Lakshmi's owl. So I think I have a slide of a very sweet Lakshmi's owl. If you take a look at it, I'll say a little more about that. Yeah. So there you can see Lakshmi dressed in pink this time. Very sweet image of Lakshmi, not the usual one of sitting on a lotus and holding a lotus. It's a very delicate kind of a person with long flowing hair. And look at that beautiful owl that is standing, a rather large owl and a white owl, which is unusual. Now, the story of this owl in Bengal, and this is told in our book also, is that Lakshmi, all the animals wanted to be the Vahan because all gods and goddesses have Vahans. They wanted to be Lakshmi's Vahan. So Lakshmi said, no, I'm going to give you a challenge. And whoever wins this challenge can be my Vahan. So she said, on a dark night, whoever comes to me first will be my Vahan. So guess who can find his way to Lakshmi on the darkest night of the year? It, of course, has to be the owl. And that is how the idea of Lakshmi and the owl being her Vahan comes into being. This is a story that is not known in many other parts of the country, so I thought I'll bring it to your notice. I'll move to the next slide, which is about Kuber. And here we are. So the question here, which bothered me for a long time till we found someone who was going to write an essay on Lakshmi versus Kuber. Kuber is also the god of wealth. Look at him. He's podgy, he's plump, he looks very contented, he sits on a golden throne. But we don't worship Kuber, but we worship Lakshmi every single day. If they were both to represent wealth, would this happen? So there's obviously more to Lakshmi and less to Kuber than is commonly known or understood. Because Kuber is a person who has enormous wealth but is very proud of his wealth. He is very possessive of his wealth. He does not share his wealth. He doesn't give it away. He's not generous. And that is why Kuber is often shown as a kind of a hoarder. And anybody who hoards is not a good human being, according to all traditions, I think, all human civilizations. That what is worthy of a good human being is to distribute, to share. If you have abundance, then please give it. Give it away, share it, and you will be a happier human being. So it is Ganesh who teaches Kuber a lesson, according to one of the stories we have in the book, because Kuber is a very proud man and it's this arrogance that needs to be punished. And he says, I'm better than anyone else because I'm the wealthiest. So Ganesh says, okay, let me try and have a little eating meal with you. Let me eat my way through whatever you have. And Kuber says, yeah, go ahead. And what Ganesh does is that he just eats his way through the wealth of Kuber, through whatever he possesses, whatever is around him, till Kuber realizes the folly of his arrogance. And he prays to Shiva and seeks his help. And finally, Kuber is told, all you have to do is offer a bowl of simple porridge to Ganesh and he will be satisfied. And that is all that Kuber has to do to be forgiven. But it's a beautiful story which illustrates the point that is important from my way of looking at Lakshmi is that she is the goddess of abundance and prosperity. Yes, but that abundance is to be shared, to be given. And that is where the joy lies. I'll move to the next slide, which is about a Lakshmi. Now, this is the contrast that you find between Lakshmi and a Lakshmi. The interesting thing is that in the Samudra Manthan, a Lakshmi emerged first, and then came Lakshmi. So her other name is Jeshtha, the older one. She's the older sister of Lakshmi, and yet there is this tremendous contrast that this slide gives you because whatever Lakshmi stands for, Lakshmi is supposed to be the very opposite. She's supposed to represent ugliness, and that's the crow. Unfortunately, I don't know why the crow has a bad name, but it does. The crow, uh, hunger, poverty, disheveled, unkempt, and therefore, as we were told, she is swept away. And there are rituals by which you sweep away Lakshmi. You sweep her in a certain way through the courtyard, out through the main door, and make very sure that she goes far away. And then you light your diya so that Lakshmi can come in. So, as the old, haggard, disheveled, untidy, bad luck woman, she is driven away. But there's a very touching story that Lakshmi is married off. But when the husband discovers that she has all these terrible things associated with her, he abandons her under a tree. And she sits there. She's, after all, a poor woman. What can she do? She's born the way she is. She's carrying the luck that she has. She sits there and she starts crying. Who comes to her rescue, do you think? It's her dear sister Lakshmi, who comes and sits by her, holds her hand, and says, never mind. Don't feel bad. Everything will be all right. So, this is a wonderful story of compassion. This another attribute when you look at the Sahasranama. She is the goddess of compassion. She is the one who brings comfort and soothing to anybody who is in trouble. Now, it's also very interesting question that has come to us while we were doing the research as to is there any reference to Lakshmi in religions other than Hinduism? That made us do a lot of very deep research. And interestingly, we did find solid links with Buddhism and with Jainism. And these links are because in some ways Buddhism emerged from Hinduism, but also because over a period of time, the idea of Lakshmi got transformed into another goddess by the name of Tara. So the attributes of one shifted to the other, and the uh, approach to Lakshmi as we know her went away. But Tara, if you look at her, has many of the attributes of Lakshmi, this whole idea of generosity and things like that. Now, in the Jain tradition, the story goes back to Lakshmi as auspicious as she appears to the mother of Mahavir. She dreams about Lakshmi when the child is born. So that blessing of Lakshmi is on Mahavir, and some of this is evident in the sculptures that one gets in the Udaygiri temples, for instance. So there is plenty of evidence there that the Buddhist and the Jain traditions derived a certain amount of inspiration and imaging, and then transformation, of course, from the goddess Lakshmi. I'm now going to turn to a different genre in which Lakshmi appears, and which is the folklore. Now, once again, I want to talk about the integrative principles of women's studies and gender studies. As I said, activism and academia are not separate. In the same way, scripted writing and oral traditions are not separate. They have been artificially separated by syllabus makers, by educators with a Western style upbringing. Because if you go back to our own traditions of Panchatantra, the Katha Sarit Sagar, we do not have a separation between even the many forms of the Ramayana. Does the oral tradition end, if it ever ends? And where does the scripted tradition begin? And there's no idea of what is called plagiarism in the tradition that I'm talking about. Of course, you retell the story. You're expected to retell the story. And when you retell the story, you borrow something, you add something, you make it into a different kind of a mix. And if you don't want to, you just tell it in your own way. For instance, the Chandravati Ramayan that Navunita Di has translated and is finally out has a lot more women characters than any other Ramayana. And she even goes into the details of Ravan's mother, which almost nobody ever talks about. So, to go back to Lakshmi, when we come to the folk Ramayans, the stories are very lively and plentiful. And in that, in particular, the idea that appeals to me is that she is a chanchal goddess. Chanchal, in English, one can call it a wandering goddess, but I love the idea of the wandering woman because we've always been told that the woman has to stay in the home. In fact, my first book was called The Law of the Threshold, where I said it's almost like a law that if you cross the threshold, you can't come back. You're labeled as a woman who wanders, and that's not a very good connotation that comes with it. But the idea of the wandering Lakshmi is beautifully told in many folk tales. So I'm going to narrate one, and I'll take you to slide 7. This is a story by Balram Das from Orissa. So the Lakshmi Puran. Now, anybody in Eastern India would know this. We can take that off now. And I'm happy to talk to my audience directly. So this was just to show you that this is a very old text. But what happens here is that Lakshmi, of course, is living with her husband, Sri Jagannath, and the brother Balram. And she says, I'm going for a walk. And on a dark night, she wanders around looking for the true devotee. And in a very poor neighborhood with lower caste people, she finds this little hut with a small diya, a single diya, lighting up a decrepit cottage. And this woman, who's called Shriya, she goes into her cottage and says, "Will you let me sit down?" And she says, "Of course, sit down." She takes it very naturally. And Lakshmi realizes that this is really my true devotee, not the palaces, not the kingly spaces, but a genuine follower who will think of me with this single light. So she sits there, chats with her, has a nice time, and then when she goes back to her own home, the two men have decided that this is not allowed. How can you go to this kind of a neighborhood, go into the home of an outcast, spend time with her? Where is your purity? You'll have to be, you know, purified all over again before you can come into your own home. So Lakshmi says, fine, I won't come in. I'm leaving. So they said, all right. So when Lakshmi leaves, everything leaves. So Jagannath and Balram find there's nothing. There's no home, there's no food, there's nowhere to sleep, there's no wall, there's nothing. The whole place has disappeared because Lakshmi has left. So then they realize the folly again of not understanding the real meaning of Lakshmi, which is goodness of heart, compassion for the poor, understanding of deprivation in a humanitarian sense. And of course, they apologize to her, and the good is restored. So this when this kind of a story is told in a community in an oral setup, it's very, very effective indeed. There is another interesting story that is very well known in Bengal, which is called Kojagari Lakshmi, and there's a special Kojagari Lakshmi Puja, which has to do with Alakshmi and Lakshmi. Now there is a king, and he is to bring some kind of money in the hands of the poor people of his kingdom, puts up a weekly haat, a market. And he says, in this market, bring your things, and whatever is not sold, I will buy and keep in my palace. So nobody goes back empty handed. So somebody plays a trick and creates an image of a Lakshmi and brings it to the market. Now, obviously, nobody is going to buy a Lakshmi. So, what does the poor king do? He has given his word that he will buy whatever is left over and bring it into his palace. So, he brings this a Lakshmi figure into the palace. The moment that happens, the statue of a Lakshmi brings bad luck, and the king and his kingdom falls into a terrible condition, and nobody knows what to do. Guess who comes to the rescue? It's his wife. So here is gender studies asserted once again. It's the wife who has the wisdom to say, look, this is what has happened. So I have to pay my tribute and worship Lakshmi, but I can't do it inside the palace. So just outside the palace, she puts up a little shrine to Lakshmi, and she prays to Lakshmi and says, bring back our prosperity because we meant well, and this is what has happened. And Lakshmi listens to them, and prosperity is restored to the good king who had made a good decision and somebody had played a nasty trick. So he should not be punished for it. So, so that's the kind of storytelling that we can find in the episodes that I have narrated. One other question came to us, and we put in a particular section on creative writing, that if so much has been written about Lakshmi, what does the modern writer do? Can you create a new story about Lakshmi? One writer from Bombay came up with a perfect example. And this was the story of Lakshmi before she surfaced in the Samudra Manthan. The story is about what Lakshmi saw under the water. And way under the water, in the depths of the ocean, she saw the beautiful sea creatures, the seahorse, the snails, but there was also a tortoise who supported her, a tortoise who allowed her to ride on his back, a tortoise who kept watch over her well being. And guess who the tortoise is? We all know that the tortoise is one of the avatars of Lord Vishnu. So she created this beautiful story. And this is how creative writers come in. There's also a Bengali writer by the name of Bonopul. We got Aruna Sinha to translate that. Bonopul is a novella, but the interesting thing is that it's a kind of a surreal story of how it's a middle class household. They bring in a servant girl, and the woman of the household treats her quite badly during the day. She scolds her, she tells her, you can't do your work, she abuses her at times. And at night, suddenly something happens. And the husband then keeps watch at night one day and finds that the same wife, the same mistress of the household, who was so rude to this girl during the day, is worshipping a Lakshmi like figure at night, because a certain transformation happens in the servant girl who becomes a sort of Lakshmi image at night. Now, this is the writer's imagination. So, the writer's imagination is infinite, and there is never an end to storytelling. And you can always create your own stories, and that is why I call it a living mythology. And each of us can add our Lakshmi stories, Sita stories, Radha stories, or whatever we wish to. So I'm going to end with an extract from a poem that I wrote. This is my book of poetry. It's called Mandalas of Time. It's my debut book of poetry, which came out only 2 years ago, long after I retired, because during my pendency as a professor, I was somehow given to believe that poetry was not my forte. After I retired, I said, never mind, if nobody reads it, I'm still going to publish it. And I'm happy to say it's done well and it's been translated into Hindi. But one of the poems is about Lakshmi. It's called Diwali with Goddess Lakshmi. I wrote the poem during COVID. As we all know, we went through our inner transformations during COVID, each of us in our own way. And there were these houses which turned dark because the people living in it were no more. And we also know the terrible ways in which people lost their lives or were critically ill. So I thought that I would write this poem about Goddess Lakshmi on Diwali, who sees this absolutely dark night, and she sees all the houses lit up, but one house entirely dark. And that one house, she wonders, why is it dark? The, and I, as the poet, know that this is my neighbor. He's lost everybody in the family. He's the only one left in that large house, and he doesn't want to light any lamps on Diwali. So I'm reading the last stanza of this poem, Diwali with Goddess Lakshmi. Today, he can watch the neighbor's lights as signs of joy ephemeral, gathering its brief glow from a cosmos ruled by the ageless Surya, who never sleeps in his vigil over the deluded earth. Today, he will trust Lakshmi's lineage of wisdom from the ages, who believed in the third eye, seeing into the unseen, the Vak that speaks beyond words, the Atman that never dies. So I end there by expressing once more my regard for the divine feminine, of which Lakshmi is one example. And I would like to encourage everyone here and any young people you meet to study more and more about the divine feminine, because you will find her not only in the goddesses, but also within your own self. And that is what gender sensitivity is about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Malashri. That was a wonderful presentation. Not a second to be missed. I really enjoyed the presentation and all the stories that you were telling us. But behind it all, as you have said, there is human feelings, emotions, or materialistic values, spiritual values. So it's actually in Lakshmi, I think we find a personification of the attributes of the human and the way in which he has been able to relate to the human and bring succor to them. I think that is the veneration that she gets from all of us who admire her and worship her. Now, the presentation, thank you so much, Malashri Lal. We have with us Kalyani Raj, who is the president of All India Women's Conference now. And we would welcome Kalyani ji. Would I ask you to unmute and say a few words?
Thank you, Jamila ji. I'm sorry I joined little bit late, so I missed out on the initial part. But right from the moment I joined, it was so fascinating. Malashri's presentation was really good, and I mean the way she connected the dots about the feminism, about the humanitarian part, the attributes, and everything was really quite very interesting. Because probably we don't look at Lakshmi, in different, the way feminism, like what she Malashri ji said, that feminism, we instead of that we look at her as a god, a goddess, and worship. But this was a very different angle, and I think I like what she said at the end, that I think all of us do have some part of Lakshmi, or the the goddess avatar, and how we can think. So I really enjoyed the gender aspect of how she presented very well, and folklore's very interesting. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Malashri ji. I really enjoyed for whatever part I left, and I'll go back to the recording later and hear the rest of the part. Thank you so much, Jamila
May
ji.
I say
Thank you,
something, please?
Kalyani.
May I
Yeah.
say something, please?
Yeah, Kumi, you wanted to say
Hi,
something,
Yes.
Kumi.
please.
Hi, Mala.
Hi.
Lovely seeing you. Hi,
Good to
Jamila.
see you again.
What a delightful presentation. And
Thanks.
it just showed me the power of myth. Somebody very recently, when I was talking to that person, said, "What can myths do?" And my immediate response is that myths can be your life coach if you want a modern way of thinking. But I think the way you brought out Lakshmi and you interpreted different aspects of her, and as was said earlier, linked her to the divine feminine. I hadn't seen her that way, because most of us are taught to read myth in a very denotative or literal way. So Lakshmi is just sitting at the feet of Vishnu. But what you brought out was absolutely enchanting, and I feel very enriched. Thank you, and please continue writing poems.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kumi. I'm sure Mala must also be going back in her memories to all our Canadian studies
Canadian
days when we
Day.
were together with so many different universities.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kumi, for joining. Malashri, would you like to respond to what Kumi has said?
Well, I can only agree with what both Kalyani and Kumi have said, that that there is so much room for gender studies when we go into mythology with our own kind of feminist perspective.
Hmm.
And the younger generation in particular, I think, would like to do it that way, and it's pertinent that it is done in that fashion, because unless the myth relates to our life, we tend to put it in a closet form or in a distant, um, objectified kind of a manner. And that is not what myth is. Myth is what, as Kubi
Absolutely.
said, can be a life coach.
Yeah. Kamini, as unmuted, you would like to say
Thank
something?
you.
Yeah,
Dr. Kamini.
that was an interesting story that you narrated. Very beautiful story that you narrated. And as you say, we have mythology in our culture. Definitely, I agree with you on that. And as you said, talked about Lakshmi, she is a package of womanhood, or maybe all goddesses. Sacrifice, love, care, brings in money, caregiver. So all these qualities, maybe all the goddesses have. I agree with you on that. And yeah, I remember in our homes, my mother used to say, like, Lakshmi, you should not sweep the courtyard after in the evening. It brings you bad luck, or your wealth will go away. It's all part of the myth or mythology as part of a culture. So that was very, very interesting. The way you presented was so interesting. Thank you so much, Malashri. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think-
I just want to make one short response here about
Yeah.
Lakshmi. I think a lot of injustice has been done to Lakshmi, because there are actually sects that worship Lakshmi. She's called Dhoomvati,
Oh.
and it's Dhua,
Hmm.
haze.
Oh.
She's called Dhoomvati, and she's powerful. So, goddesses who can be destructive or can also be powerful. I completely agree with you that the goddesses are extremely powerful figures, and but that power can be expressed through different means. I so far we've not dared do a book on Kali, but I think of Kali very often because Kali has in the mythological tradition a very wide range of iconographic representations, including the very powerful image of her in her Rudra roop,
Yeah.
and yet in her benign roop too. So the possible and a Lakshmi should go beyond being labeled as only bringing bad luck, and that's why I narrated that story as to how Lakshmi is ready to give her compassion. In other words, it's a code for saying she also deserves compassion.
Yes.
Actually, it also takes us to this question of, like every human being, there has two parts, like there is the evil and there is the good. And the way we overcome the evil is what we makes us closer to, say, the iconic figure like Lakshmi, and the other that goes in the opposite direction. So I think
True.
I would like to read it like that, so that you get this feeling, that nobody can be as divine and as pure as Lakshmi. And perhaps that is why an alter ego to that has been created, perhaps, to suggest that there is an other part to it. And I was wondering, Malashri Lal, when you were talking about Diwali, Diwali was seen as a festival of, in the Ramayana, as Sita and Raman coming back, then how does Lakshmi and Ganesha get into that celebration of Diwali?
Well, Lakshmi is in because she's light is associated with Lakshmi.
Mhm.
So when Ayodhya lit up completely to welcome the king and the queen once again, the city was lit up to welcome them, and that was the beginning of Diwali.
So that
And
is the
Ganesh, of course,
association.
is the god of prosperity.
I just wanted to add something to your
Yeah.
here. Yeah, in Maharashtra, we used to say whatever you said when the Lakshmi came out from that. So she was having the elephant also. So in
Yes.
Maharashtra, yeah. So in Maharashtra, we have Vaibhav Lakshmi. Vaibhav Lakshmi is on the elephant. She is not a goddess. She is only elephant having with the full of gold. And if at all you want to keep it in your house, you have to keep it facing her face to the north. So
I
that
see.
and so that you can keep the wealth in your house and it will be full of wealth.
That's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the variation that one gets, regional variations of Lakshmi stories are endless.
Yes.
Because, of
Yes.
course, everybody wants to have sufficient um, wealth to be comfortable, etc. The trouble with the Kuber image is the arrogance that goes with wealth.
Yeah.
It's not against wealth. And the Alakshmi figure is really, it is the opposite. It is a reminder that don't be arrogant because she may leave you any day.
Yeah.
So humility is also a part of what Lakshmi's bounty is.
Yes. Yes.
A good moral. Yeah.
Yes.
Bhuneshwari has unmuted. You'd like to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, about the different forms of Lakshmi. What I knew was in Kerala we have Ashtalakshmi, not
Yeah.
in Kerala only, but in Kerala, what I had connected to was the jewelry. Ashtalakshmi on the bangles, Ashtalakshmi in the necklace, 8 different types of Lakshmis. So that is what somehow I was connected to. That is how I came to know of the Ashtalakshmi when we got them. Another thing was about the Alakshmi. See, you said the word Jeshta. So in Malayalam, I don't know whether somebody told about this because I got disconnected for few minutes. In Malayalam, one of the days we drive away we call it Cheta Bhagavati. Cheta. Cheta means a very bad person, bad lady, I think. I don't know. Feminine word, I think. So Cheta Bhagavati, we say, not Cheta only. So that is there in Kerala. I think it's this month, just beginning of this month, Karkadaga month, one day before. I'm not too sure because that day every house is cleaned up and Cheta Bhagavati Po. That is what I have heard in the, Po means go away.
Go away.
So like that. That we used to do in our childhood days. I've seen that, our people doing it, elders. Another thing I want to tell you.
Karkadagam. Last day of Karkadagam and
last day of
day before
Karkadagam.
New Year.
Okay, not that. Last day of the Karkadagam, correct.
Because
So I know something to do with it. Next day is the Chinyam Onna, that is the Onam month.
Good month.
Okay.
Good month.
New Year.
Month.
New
Yeah,
Year.
right. Oh, yeah, I was trying to recollect which part of
That
another
is
thing I
that is the beginning of bounty and harvest and all that.
Yes,
no?
harvesting and happiness and prosperity and all.
Yeah.
And
So,
one more thing
just one response before I lose this thread. The Ashtalakshmi concept came in much later. In fact, it came in the 20th century.
Oh.
And the different kinds of Lakshmis, because the ancient tradition is the 108 and the Sahasranama, 108 and 1000 names. This Ashtalakshmi and the emphasis on the gold, etc., is a later development.
Oh, yeah.
And the word in Bengali is Jeshtha, Jyestha. It means the older one.
Correct.
And it is possible that it takes a different kind of a linguistic form in other parts of the country.
Yeah, maybe.
And this whole idea of driving out the bad luck also means cleaning up the house.
Correct.
Which, by the way, is the woman's job. So we've got to fight against that also.
I just wanted to add only one thing. I just
Yeah.
wanted to add only one thing. You had left out one slide, the last slide, were the Lakshmi name.
Oh, I left that out.
Yes, we forgot.
Oh,
If you would
okay.
like me to show it.
All right, I can tell you that story if you like.
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Okay, let me just, in a minute, I will take it back and show it. Okay.
It's an interesting
Meanwhile,
story.
Malashri,
Brings
I
you
just
right
wanted to
back to
ask
your
you.
dressing tables.
Puljit Kauti.
Yeah, I just wanted to
I'll
ask you something, in all these Deshta and all, isn't there a masculine, linguistically, isn't that a masculine ending that you find even in Malayalam is
No, in Jeshtha, in Bengali, can be male or female.
female, okay.
Sanskrit thing, no? Sanskrit. Deshta.
But in Malayalam also, like Jeshtan is elder brother.
Elder brother.
Yes, yes.
That's why I said it's elder brother, not elder sister, elder brother.
Elder brother. In our language also it's elder brother.
Jeshtati means elder sister.
Oh.
So this Jeshtha comes as elder sister of Lakshmi. We also have it in Malayalam mythology.
Yeah, in our also, Jeshta Kanya is the first Kanya.
Eldest one.
That is Kanya.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yes.
Just Kanya is.
Yeah, I left that out because I thought I didn't want to drag out the lecture, but this is an interesting story which brings us right back to our dressing tables. Because many of us use the Lakme brand, and Lakshmi is associated with this story also. Because soon after independence of India, the government felt, and particularly Jawaharlal Nehru, it is said, felt that Indian women are spending too much money on foreign cosmetics. So we should build an Indian brand. And J.R.D. Tata, whose picture you see here, came into the scene and said, okay, let me try. Hired two French advisors, and they came out with a brand of cosmetics which they called Lakshmi. But they thought that
Lakme.
marketing, from the marketing point of view, it won't happen too successfully. So they gave it a French twist and called it Lakme.
Lakme.
And that is the story of how Lakme got its name.
Oh, wow.
And what
Very
I
nice.
Very
yeah, I
interesting.
Really.
wrote
Very
the
interesting.
essay in the book, not finishing it at that point, but saying that Lakshmi is a selling point even now. Look at the number of government schemes that we have in India which use the word Lakshmi. So she's a very good brand name. And whether it is by private companies or by government, it's a very attractive name. And therefore, it continues to be in use, whether you look at ancient Sanskrit texts or you look at the newspaper this morning. You will find Lakshmi there in some form or the other.
Correct.
Jamila ji, if I can come
yes.
in, I just
Yeah,
wanted
sure.
to mention when you said about the Diwali part that this Ganesh Lakshmi and the Amavasya and the light. You see that Ganesh Lakshmi concept is only in the north. Whereas in south, the concept is different. In fact, Kamini will know in Tamil Nadu, we say Narakasura, Naraka Jayanti. The Diwali, it is the end of that Rakshas Narakasur.
Evil,
So
death, evil.
that is, how we in Tamil Nadu and all that they say that. So that's the way we celebrate. So this Lakshmi Ganesh concept is more in the north. And I mean, even I have been wondering that how, even if you connect it with Ram returning after victory, how does this Ganesh and Lakshmi part comes in? That's something I really don't know. And I like Malashri, your Lakme product, bringing
Yes.
it to the
So
current date, giving it as a brand. It's
We were
that
not knowing
shows.
this fact.
Yeah, no, that sort of shows that how mythology or our ancient beliefs or whatever can be turned into, the trendy part.
Yes.
Even if you want to make it more interesting to the youngsters and all that, it can be interpreted and differently, and myths being retold in a different way, as Malashri ji said, that it is, of course, a borrowed script, but then you can interpret it in different ways. And I think a lot of writers are doing it now. A lot of writers are doing it now in a different way. In fact, recently I read Ashwin Sanghi's book in which it says
Sanji.
that, Sita was Ravan's daughter. And all the reason, yeah, it says that Sita was
Yeah.
Ravan's daughter, and entire reason for him to visit India was to see that she is safeguarded, and that's why he had taken her and all. So there is a different interpretation, So,
that
but
is creative
it is,
writing.
yes, it is
But no,
creative writing.
the story about Sita being Ravan's daughter belongs to an old text, but
Okay,
is not much known.
right.
But it is already there. But
Ah,
what modern writers do is that they pick up these forgotten corners of mythological tales
hmm.
and build it into a much bigger
Yeah,
story.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's why
That's
Raman
right.
doesn't touch her.
Yeah.
Hmm,
Yeah.
That
I
must be
think
the reason.
hmm.
Kulchit Kaur ji wanted to say something.
And yes, yes, yes.
Please go
It's a
ahead.
wonderful, wonderful presentation given by Malashri ji.
Thank you.
For me, it was a great information because I wasn't aware about A. Lakshmi. Now, coming to creative writing, what I would like to say is that let's combine A. Lakshmi and Lakshmi ji because all the human beings, they have got negative elements also and the positive also. And Lakshmi had that characteristics also, A. Lakshmi, and that's why she's a complete personality because those negative perspectives are also there and the positive are also there. But positive are most influential, most overbearing. That's why we call Lakshmi with all those compassion, generosity, and whatever we say about her. That is of course my creative writing. I don't ask you to believe that because Malashri is feeling very bad about this statement that A Lakshmi and Lakshmi can be combined as one personality. This is my imagination. I'm just imagination. Second
You're
point I
very
would like.
right. You're,
Hmm.
you're very right because mythology also works through metaphors.
Yes.
And it is a metaphor that the good and the bad go together. You
Yeah.
can't always separate them. but in certain forms of storytelling, you separate them in order to understand them, and then you bring them together.
Yeah.
And my second part is because I work for women and all, so I see everything with that perspective. So in this story, the whole story which you have narrated, I can see the power of the women also. Because when Balram and Jagannath they are left alone and Lakshmi leaves that place, they're so dependent on that woman that she has to come back, only then they can manage their lives. Second,
Yeah.
the story about the king you have told, that when A. Lakshmi enters his house and how his life turns at once into a bad days and all, and his wife, the queen of the house, she comes forward and she tries to help her husband to come out of those A. Lakshmi's whatever you can say, that blessing, it is not blessing, adversity. So again, women, again and again, at every step, it is the women who comes out and brings balance in the life. And at every step, it is the man always needs the women. Man is never complete without a woman. That's what I would like to say. And the best sentence which I liked in your presentation was, when we look at Lakshmi ji, we look our own image in that. So that is what every woman has to see. That when we see Lakshmi, that she represents all of us. All of us, we are full of compassion, generosity, love, brightness, all those plus points we all possess. So that's why we look at Lakshmi ji and we see our own image in Lakshmi ji. This is my second point. And the third thing which I like the best, divine feminism, that all of us, we have got that divinity in all of us. That's why we are human beings. That's why we are women. That's why we have compassion. That's why we are kind. That's why we are lovable. So because we have got that divine aspects, divine elements, and divine feminism, all of us, we possess that. So we should be proud of that rather than saying that man is strong and man is superior. No, women has got all those things which the men don't have. Because in my religion, in Guru Granth Sahib, it is written that between God and women, no one comes. God has created the women, that's all. And then further, women creates everything. So no one is superior, no man is superior, no man is above women. After God, when God created women, next to God is only women. So that's what I believe also. And your stories also prove that without women, the man cannot exist, the man cannot live. Thank you so much. Wonderful story, full of information. I learned a lot because I hardly knew anything. I knew that in Samundar Manthan, she came out on the elephant and all, but the story of owl also, I wasn't aware about that. So that's why it was excellent presentation, full of information. I really learned a lot from it. Thank you so much, Malashri ji.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Kuljit ji.
Mala,
I
you would
just
like
want
to
to add,
respond?
I just want to add one point to illustrate what you were saying about gender equality. The idea of gender equality goes back again to Ardhanarishwar, which is an ancient Indian image. Half man, half woman is equal to a full human being. If we only remembered our mythology, we don't have to look around and talk about other theoreticians, etc., from other cultures. We have our own material to go back to. Ardhanarishwar to me is a very, very powerful image of the coexistence of equality between man and woman. They need each other. We are half and half.
Very good. Very good point for my lectures also. Very good point.
Dr. Lelita Matthew
Yes.
wants to say something. She's unmuted.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Usha ma'am, I'm really sorry, madam. All ma'ams, my respect to all of you. I was really stuck in another meeting and actually very bad manners, but I was having my coffee in front of you now. So I missed a lot of important points. Anyway, this is recorded. I can ask Usha ma'am and I can listen to it again if possible. It was very interesting. But then one observation which I have felt is like you might have already said it because I came in the last moment. See, all these mythological stories, all these, whatever the same, this Naragasura or whatever, we find that even though they are metaphors or they are only images or whatever, the point is truth shall win. The truth vanquishes the evil. Every Purana you take, whatever you say, this Navratri festival, Diwali, everything. Truth shall win. Satyameva Jayate, that statement is proved. That is my humble opinion. What do you say?
It's an
Would
ideal.
you like to respond? Yeah.
It
Yes.
is an ideal that we would
It's
all
an
like
idea.
to believe in Satyameva Jayate, and it is a good ideal to hold on to. Whether it
Yes.
happens in one's life or not, we don't know. But
Yes.
I
But
completely agree with you that this is something we should be upholding. And a lot of our mythological stories, that even the Samudra Manthan story is the same thing. They're looking for Amrit, the
yes.
gods and the demons. So
Yes.
it's all about the fight. But as was said a little while earlier, that it's really two sides of our own being. We are constant within our own soul. There are two parts of us: the evil and the good, that is fighting with each other all the
Yes.
time.
And the
And
good
the
will.
and the Satyameva Jayate, it refers as much to the victory in our own soul as it
Ah,
does to the world outside.
yes, yes, yes. That's right. It's
Thank
very
you.
true.
Renuka, would you like to unmute and ask something? Renuka?
Jamila, one of our senior
Yeah.
patrons, she is also there. You ask her if she would like to say. Uchal, Mrs. Kohli is also there. Maybe she would like to say something. Mrs. Kohli, Veena Kohli.
Ji, will you like to say something? Would you
Thank you so much. It was a very interesting webinar. And thank you so much, Malashri ji. We've heard you earlier at AIWC, and it's always a pleasure to hear you. And I love these stories about Lakshmi and Kuber and A. Lakshmi. It was quite very interesting. Thank you very much. I think
Thank
there's
you, Veena
nothing.
ji. Good to have you here.
And
Thank-
Shika Mitra is also here. Would like to unmute?
No.
Shika Mitra would like to unmute and say something.
Renuka,
Yeah. Renuka?
unmute. Unmute.
Nay, you have not unmuted, Renuka. Please unmute yourself.
No.
No, you haven't unmuted.
Unmute. Yeah, talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
Very interesting speech. I really enjoyed it. And then Vishnu, Brahma, and Maheshwar, they are the Trimurtis, and Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. And when actually Sri Rama is Vishnu has taken the form of Sri Rama. Then, and when he took Sri Rama, wife, he actually, Sita was actually Lakshmi. Is actually Lakshmi coming to. She was the one who. Sita is actually Lakshmi. We are just as Sri Rama is an incarnation of Vishnu. And Lakshmi is an incarnation of Sita is an incarnation of Lakshmi. Because today morning I was just reading the Ramayana, and then Vishnu and Vishnu was saying to Brahma when he came and said the earth is full of demons, we have to save them, and Vishnu says, yes, I will come, I will be reborn as Sri Rama, and the Lakshmi will come as Sita. She will be reborn as Sita. Actually, it is Sita is actually Lakshmi, just as Sri Krishna and Radha is another incarnation of Vishnu, and Radha is Lakshmi, actually Lakshmi.
But
It's
ma'am, what
Yes.
about the Rukmini?
Yes.
What about Rukmini then? What
Would you
about
like to
Rukmini?
comment on that, Lal?
No, Rukmini is not Lakshmi. Correct. Yours is correct.
So
Rukmini is
according to the
supposed to be the.
legends, Lakshmi and Vishnu are consorts
Yes.
for all the avatars
All
of
the
Vishnu.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For all the avatars,
Usha, would I like to add something?
Yes.
all avatars of Sri Krishna, Lakshmi comes as his consort.
That's right. Yes.
That's right.
No, but the point somebody just now is
Yeah.
Radha is Lakshmi, but Radha was married
But I
to
think Rukmani is Lakshmi. That's
Yeah.
what I am
No.
saying.
Krishna's wives are different, Rukmini and Satyabhama and all others. But Radha was never his wife.
Not
Yeah,
his
they
wife.
got
Radha
married.
was not.
And,
Radha was having only the love with Krishna when he
yeah.
was small, and that time that is why it's called as a Lakshmi. No other person, no other lady is a Lakshmi.
Yeah, no.
I think we'll have to have another session on Radha.
Yeah,
It's a very
And Rukmini,
complicated.
who is
It's
the
a
I
very
think we have to
complicated.
find it out everything for the Radha.
They are
Yes.
their body and soul. They're body
Yes.
and soul, so they're inseparable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the theory goes that in Radha Krishna relationship, Radha, the Jivatma, is trying
Yes.
to merge with the Paramatma Krishna.
Yes, correct.
She feels but she's older. Chronologically, Radha is supposed to be older.
Radha is
than Krishna.
older. Yes, yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
it is symbolically speaking, it is the Jivatma, the microcosm, wanting to merge with the macrocosm,
Yeah.
the
So
universe.
all mythology is related. It's a very beautiful and cosmic web
Yes.
that talks about every possible relationship and emotions that we go through in our ordinary lives.
Yeah.
No, ma'am, I have a doubt. I mean,
Chandy,
I have a little
Sarama Chandy
tendency
would like to
question
say
ask.
something. Please unmute if you like to say something. Yeah.
About?
Who's that?
Sorry, I missed the question.
Did someone was
Lalita
someone talking
Madam
when I
wanted to
called?
make a
Yes, I
point.
asked a question which all you Puranic experts will be able to help me because I am a professor in Cochin University. And since I teach language, English literature and language, see, anything under the sky becomes my subject because it is Sahitya. And I say this, they say something, and finally, in the same way, like that, I come to the point in the lesson. That is my way of teaching. So we all and sundry we talk, and I love my students. I teach engineering students, MSc, integrated MSc, MBA, law. All these people come under me in Cochin University. So one boy was asking me, ma'am, whatever it is, Maryada Purushottam and the ideal person and all, Sri Ram, but he did a great injustice. Why did he have to send his wife away when he knew that she was so virtuous and that Agni Pravesh was all?
As I said, that's a subject in itself. Today we're
Yes.
talking about Lakshmi.
Lakshmi,
So
yes.
I won't go into that right now.
Yeah.
It's a very complex.
Pending for
You
me.
raised a very
Yeah,
important and a very
I think
complex
we
moral,
should.
ethical issue, and also textual because there are many versions of the Ramayana.
Yeah.
So
I think
forgive me for not taking it up now. I'm happy to talk to you separately about that part of it.
But please keep it
Yeah,
pending for
sure.
me.
Will Usha now
Sure,
conclude?
I'll
I think
happily
it's
get into a
almost 6
conversation
o'clock
with
and
you separately.
Usha, yes, Usha.
Yeah,
Usha,
Yeah.
Usha, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much for that excellent presentation and animated discussion that we had now. I also would like to just add one or two points. This is about how mythology is so interwoven with our daily lives. We were talking about Jyeshtha, and as Bhuvneshwari said in Malayalam, it is called Cheta Bhagavati. That is the elder Bhagavati. She is the elder sister of Lakshmi. So I remember when we were very small children, our grandmothers and the old maids who were there, they would tell us after having a bath, if you don't dry your back first, wherever you dry first, this Cheta Bhagavati will come and sit on that part. And wherever you wipe second, Lakshmi will come and sit. So we were that first you must dry your back so that Jyeshtha Bhagavati sits on your back, and second you must wipe your face so that Lakshmi comes and sits on your face. So how that the good and evil, it is used to teach good habits.
Yes.
It is for children not to forget to dry their backs. Otherwise they may wipe all other portions and forget to wipe the back. And in the same way, while washing your feet, we were told that if you don't wash your heel, this Jeshta Bhagavati is just waiting to get into your body. If you don't wash your heel, she will enter your body through the heel. So the first thing was you have to wash your heels first and then wash the rest of your feet.
Oh.
So it's very interesting how all these things get interwoven into the daily
Part
life.
of our daily life.
Teach good lessons to small children.
Yeah.
Then the point I wanted to make was about the versions of Ramayana. Many years back, I had an opportunity of proofreading a collection, a report brought out by Sahitya Academy on a seminar on Ramayana, different versions of Ramayana that they had organized several years back. And in that, I read that there are almost 700 versions of Ramayana, not just across the world. You see versions of Ramayana, even in Indonesia, we know it is very much very close to our Hindu culture. But even in places like Japan, and even in the Buddhist scriptures, in the Sikh scriptures, everywhere we get stories which are very close to the Ramayana story. So, as somebody mentioned, in some, Sita is the daughter of Ramayana, and there are different versions of what happens. And in another one, she is the sister, Ram, Lakshman, Sita, they are one sister and two brothers, they are going on. So, there are very different versions. And in recent times, in the past many decades, we can say that in Malayalam also, we have had excellent literary publications or writings, novels and others, in which one is about that famous Randam Ulam by M.T. Vasudevan Nair, where Bhima is the hero. So you see the whole Mahabharatam from Bhima's perspective. In the same way, I had another chance to proofread another book of Sahitya Academy. The book is in Kannada, translated into English. I forget the name, but there Kunti is the central character. How does Kunti see the whole thing unfolding, and how she is telling us the story of Mahabharata through her eyes? So like that, even Ramayana, many people about Urmila, there have been publications. Urmila, Lakshman's wife. So it is all, how it evolves. The literature evolves from our cultural background and how each person is highlighted. Karna is the hero of many writings. We know that. So, and all these thoughts came to me because of this inspiring talk by Professor Malashri Lal. It brought back so many memories because we are very familiar with all these stories about Lakshmi and Radha, and you have written about all the three. You have brought 3 books. So it would be very interesting. I'm sure you would have read a lot more interesting stories on all these divine characters, and it would be very interesting to prolong this discussion. And as you can see, there are so many people with so many questions. So maybe another time we'll have that. And we are no stranger to AIWC. We are very grateful that you joined us and gave us this excellent presentation. So I thank all of you, all the members who have joined from across the country, and all our supporting, the strong supports, that is Professor Jamila. She is the heart and soul of this whole literary and cultural forum. We have kept it going just with her efforts mostly. And Dr. Kamini and Bhuneshwari Ravindran all are integral to the growth of this series. We are fortunate that we have completed 53 episodes, and now we are getting more and more support on YouTube. Our viewership has increased, and more people watch on YouTube because the time is more convenient for them. They can watch it anytime. So even within 2-3 days, we are usually hitting 100 viewership on YouTube. So that is again a very encouraging news for us. So next month, Jamila, would you like to say something about the next?
Yeah, first I would like to thank Professor Malashri Lal for taking time off and being with us. I know how busy she is. with so many different places that she is traveling to and the many functions, events. I just saw a few days back the launching of a book, the review of a book, her own book of poetry. So I know how busy he is. So thank you so much for agreeing to be here with us on this webinar and making such an interesting presentation. Thank you so much. But more wonderful was seeing you again and being able to share a platform with you as we did so many years back. Thank you
It's
so
an
much,
honor. It's
Malashri.
my honor and privilege to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've thoroughly enjoyed meeting all of you and the interaction.
Ma'am, before we sign off, I have a book to show you,
And
which I'm
thank you
reading now.
everyone for
This is
Oh, yeah.
Mahabharat from
I know
Panchali's
that.
perspective.
Mm.
Panchali's perspective. That is
Yeah.
Chitra Banerjee.
Chitra Devkaruni Banerjee.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we have correct. She has
yeah,
written.
and this is the book of Sita stories.
Yes. It is Panchali's perspective.
And
So thank you all for being on this platform. We'll let you know as soon as we have decided on the next speaker, and most probably it will be on something that is as interesting as we had today. So see you all next time on this platform, and we'll let you know the date. Thank you so much, all the members who have joined us, all our well-wishers. Thank you, Usha, for making this platform always available for us for the Literary and Cultural Forum. Thank you, Bhuneshwari, for managing things so well with the slides. Thank you, Dr. Kamini, Renuka, Ashada, Shikesh Pandey, Pujit Kaur ji, Veena ji, Sumitra, all Shika ji, who have all joined us here. And thank you, Kalyani, for being with us throughout. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jamila.
Thank you.
I would have been sad if I missed it. Thank you so much.
And I'm
Thank you for
already
being
sad
here.
because I missed it. I'm
Prof,
already sad that I missed it.
like to add that we also
No,
have
it is on YouTube. As Usha said, this has been recorded and it has been put on YouTube, and you can see it at your
Yeah, ma'am.
convenience.
Sure.
And one thing that gives us a lot of pleasure is most of our talks are now hitting over 100 views. So that shows that people everywhere are really interested in the talks.
and Professor Malashri.
So you can just I'll send you the link, Professor Malashri Lal, and you can take a look at the link, and then you'll see how many hits there have been and how many have been.
Thank you so much.
And we have annual Mathrubhumi Literature Festival in Trivandrum every year in February. I hope you will find time to attend that also. It is picking up very fast, and it is also a very interesting happening. So just like Jaipur Literature Festival and Calcutta Literature Festival, I hope you will find time to come to Trivandrum and attend the Mathrubhumi.
Thank you very much. Trivandrum is a beautiful place. I used to go there quite often once upon a time.
Yeah.
Please come again.
I hope you make another trip soon.
Yes.
We'll get together.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye. So, yeah.
And we hope to see you again at the next webinar. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd be happy to attend also.
We'll definitely be in touch with you, and we hope you'll be able to attend